Hey everyone, welcome to another Brandable Minute. We're in it to win it. Actually, you are in it to win it. I'll tell you that. So once again, for those of you that might not know what this is about, we're just going through my little black book of it's like a diary for just strategy, branding, all of the notes that I've taken over the years and things that I've just had tucked away. Ready to share that stuff. So it may benefit you more than it might have benefited me. And there are things I think that little nuggets and things that I probably did not deem valuable that others might. And so, yeah, that's just what it is. One man's trash is another one's treasure. Now, mind you, this is not treasure, trash. I said trash. And speaking of which, listen, look at this, guys. Speaking of treasure, this is in the book that I'm using. I don't know why I've never used the folder part in the moleskins. I don't know if you guys look what I found. I'm pulling this out. Look what I found. I don't even know if it's going to show properly. You know, green screens here. A $2 bill, guys. $2 bill, crispy. And I actually know who this is from. An old family friend. Listen. It elicit memories. It didn't elicit expectations. You remember we talked about branding and what that was all about. It didn't elicit any of that. I just had to check to see if the mic was on, because if it wasn't on, man, that would suck. It didn't elicit what we talk about stories. It did. It may have a story or two, but it and relationship. I don't really have a relationship with that. So this $2 bill is not a brand. Technically, now it could be brand equity, but technically it's not really a brand. It's got to have those four pieces so that you can consider this thing a brand. And not only that, but I have to continue to want to buy this over and over again. Who's buying $2 bills? This is actually a 2013 I was going to say model, but the 2013 circulation. And so I think it's only worth like $5 to $10. But if it was like the 1970s or 80s, this $2 bill would probably have been worth not 19, I think 18. 70s or something like that. I think, I'm not sure. It would have been worth about like $500, guys. So anyway, all of that to say, listen, let's recap right quick. Brand is about a promise. It's about loyalty. It's about distinction over loyalty. Okay. So remember, you're not trying to build something to get people to want it first. No, you got to differentiate yourself first before you talk about, I want people to be loyal. What are they going to be loyal to? It's a set of memories, expectations, relationships, and stories that allow them to want to buy the product or service over and over again. Then we talked about, and I won't do this recap all the time because then it's going to end up being like 20 minutes as opposed to just a minute. And I think we're already into 3 right now. But then we talked about the 4 types of branding work. This is like the deliverables. What would you offer a client or maybe even do for yourself? And I wrote down here analysis, strategy, standards, and marketing. So brand analysis, brand strategy, brand standards, brand marketing. Depending on where you are and what you're doing, then those are the components that you can use. And there's at least 3 to 8, depending on the category, that you can use for that. So now let's talk about brand storytelling. I am so amazed at, yes, I'm going to stroke my ego just a little bit here, at what I've written years ago, forgot, and reading it and saying, wow, this is pretty good. So I don't even know where it came from. I wish I would have like written sources or references, but who does that in a moleskin? You're just jotting down notes and you're moving on and you're trying to implement these things. Okay, let's get to this one. Brand storytelling. All right, now, I decided to talk about, instead of stories, I wrote narratives, and we're going to break down what that is. As a matter of fact, let's go ahead and break it down right now. Let's go ahead and share this screen. And you already know what it is, guys. We're going to go ahead and share right quick. So hopefully this works out. So brand narratives are about stories that reflect these 4 things that we talked about, right? Promise, it's a promise, but it's also reflecting positioning, personality, and consistency. So this is another set of definitions of what branding is. So at first we had here that branding is a set of stories, memories, expectations, and what was the last one, guys? Relationships, right? But now we're talking about brand narratives. And so with this, we want to now go a little bit deeper, more practical into what branding is. And so remember, branding is about distinction, but it's about these 4 elements: And some of you know this from just like marketing, right? This is kind of similar to uh, promise, positioning, personality, and it's got to be consistent. It's got to be consistent, guys. If it's not consistent, it's not a brand. Okay. Now, what I wrote was that the business that I was starting before, that my specialty would be developing compelling stories for brands and not developing the brand itself. So I got very specific. So for those of you that are thinking about branding, some of you need to start differentiating. What are you trying to build for that company or for yourself? Are you doing the actual stories, or are you going to be doing the entire brand? Ask yourself that, because if you're doing the entire brand, you're doing more than just stories. You're hitting all of these pieces. You're hitting the entire experience. And of course, in the UX world, it's overwhelmingly huge. And so even in UX, there's different roles that you can take. There's research, there's architecture, there's so many different things. So this is what, let's see here. I'm probably going to have to add another page or kind of just move this over. Developing. And so this is how I broke it down, right? I broke it down into 3 chunks, 3 steps that you can do to start creating brand stories. So we're going to probably have multiple ones here. So if you're doing stories, this is what you're going to do. You're going to first develop a narrative. Then you're going to craft the stories. And then you're going to market the content. I probably might just have to just do another develop, craft, market. So what are you doing? Developing the narrative means that you're using the brand and the narrative elements. What does that mean? Remember when we talked about the different pieces of brand, the branding work? So now here it is. You're using analysis. You're using maybe, and I put a question mark here because I wasn't sure, if I would even be doing this, but you're using brand strategy. You're using the things that you said, or that we said it was going to be about. And then you're also using narrative development. What does that mean? I wrote down here the hero's journey for development. You want a framework. So for any of you, you can probably use the hero's journey. You can use the classic 3-act story. My good friend Elroy, he came up, he published a book recently that has, I think it's like 5 steps to building a story. And the actual book is called And Every Day. So it's like Once Upon a Time. I can't even remember the framework, but that is a framework itself. And he actually wrote an entire book on just one part of the framework. He's a genius. And so we have here also, maybe you do myth analysis. So the whole point is you develop the narrative first. Now you go to using the actual story elements. What does that mean? So story maps, storyboards, what else? Setting, character. Like these are things that you guys already know, right? Setting, character, plot, conflict. You want to think about the conflict resolution, I guess that is. You want to think about the larger picture first. That's what this is. Develop the narrative. A narrative, and I wrote down so that you guys can, so that I could understand it, but now I'm letting you guys understand it. A narrative is different from stories. A narrative is a system, and you guys know I love systems. It's a system of stories. You got to have a minimum of 2. You got to have at least 2 stories for it to be considered a narrative. A story is an event unit. I'm going to hate myself for not writing better here, but this is what we're talking about. The setting, the character, the plot, the conflict resolution. Oh, I'm going to hate myself later on. Like, what did I write here? And then I also put here for content marketing, because remember, guys, you're developing the narrative, you're creating the stories, you're getting into the nitty gritty now for each of the event units. Content marketing, this is where a lot of us will get anxiety. I put here, this is what it includes. It includes a few things. Sorry. Let me go back. So with the brand, with the brand narrative now. So you have a narrative, which is a system of stories. You've got stories, which is an event unit. So a brand narrative is this. It's a system of stories that communicate a promise The positioning, y'all are getting it right. The personality and the values. Some of y'all might be taking notes here. So personality and the values consistently. Yeah. Okay, there we go. So that now is saying you're now taking your system, you're taking your units, you're putting it all together so that it can position, it can have all of these pieces here, promise, position, personality, and now you've got a market. So this is what marketing is about. Consistent, ongoing, valuable information focused not on selling, but simply communicating with customers and prospects to inspire businesses and loyalty, to inspire business, I should say, and loyalty from buyers. Here are the examples of your marketing content: news, video, white papers, ebooks, infographics, case studies, how-to guides, Q&A articles, photos. That's content marketing. So a lot of this now can work on social media. Makes sense, right? Like photos, you can use Instagram. Y'all are getting it? So here, content marketing is about consistency, right? Then it's also about value. Got to be valuable content. It's not about selling, not yet. You're not selling yet. But what you are doing is you're educating, you're edifying. You want to get people to say, wow, that's interesting. I never understood that. This is actually content marketing, if you really want to think about it that way. And I even set up the story. I'm using my little black book to share narratives. I'm using my little black book to share the notes that I've taken over the years with the world, kind of like with Austin Kleon's Show Your Work. Okay, guys, this one was a little bit longer. We are actually into the 11-minute mark. This is no longer a brandable minute. I might have to rebrand this into something else, but I hope that this was useful for you. So here's the whole point of what brand storytelling is about. A narrative is a system of stories. A story is an event unit. Brand narratives is taking those system of stories and applying the promise, the personality, the positioning, and the consistency so that you can actually do something tangible with it. That tangibility is content marketing. All right, I hope that that was helpful for you guys, and I will see you in the next one. If I can just hit the broadcast end button.